I'm joined by Viral Desai, Senior Executive Director at Knight Frank.
So the last 6 months, I think to everyone's surprise, given the global economic backdrop, the office markets have actually held up very well. Some of the key insights that we see, it follows the global trajectory. So commercial real estate demand, we map it into four buckets. The India-facing business, where Indian companies are taking space to service their Indian consumers, and all businesses that service Indian consumers when they take space. So that is bucket one. Bucket number two is the third-party IT services firms, where they pick up job from global MNCs from an outsourcing standpoint and offer various solutions within the larger technology domain, ranging from BPO to far more complex solutions. And there are a bunch of these third-party large IT services firms, both Indian and multinational. They're executing work out of India, basis talent and cost arbitrage, and then they're essentially doing work for global MNCs. So that is the second bucket. The third bucket is the global capability centers, where multinational firms based out of North America and Europe, when they set up their own technology centers directly into India, for example, let's say the large global automobile giant sets up their technology center to manage technology for their global operations, and that's a GCC. So that's the third bucket. And then the fourth bucket is the managed office space, where managed service providers or flex service providers or co-working space providers take space on lease, and each of the other three buckets take space within them. Now, what we've seen is that the Indian economy is doing very well, and that segment of the business, the India facing business, their share of space take up in India has gone up dramatically. And we see that trend, which has played out in the last 6 months and is likely to follow as the Indian economy is doing well. And it's anticipated that more manufacturing will follow suit. So the outlook also is very strong for India facing businesses taking more space here. The second big trend is that third party IT services firms, which were essentially the drivers of commercial real estate over the last 30 years, they've taken a backseat given global multinational companies are going slow and they service various sectors, right? So their share of commercial real estate has gone down, but the India facing business has done well.
Within India facing, what are the top three sectors you would say which are currently in that expansionary mode?
I think in this period of time, and which is great about India, is India is firing across sectors. So whether it's banking, where most banks and in fact most companies have their balance sheets cleaned up. So banks are taking a lot of space. I would say generally manufacturing companies, they are taking corporate spaces for their corporate headquarters. And if you ask me, it's actually well spread out, because if you have defense doing well, aerospace doing well, retail doing well, FMCG doing okay, manufacturing, automobiles doing very well, and banks doing very well, because banks sort of represent the basket of the economy, right?
You mentioned many of them are taking corporate headquarters. So are you seeing a consolidation within this space as well, within the India facing businesses, in terms of the way they're coming together?
It's actually growth driven, and consolidation is a part of the strategy, because companies have been cautious over the last so many years, and they've taken space as and when they want. But now, when you're looking at a brighter, more visibility of how things are panning out, etc., so it's a combination of expansion and also consolidation of space. Let's also remember that in the last 3 years, while the India-facing business has had almost 100% return to office, technology sector still lagging behind on that front as well. There's more hiring anticipated, and then there are other drivers with respect to quality upgrade, harnessing talent. So it's a combination of things, but primarily being for India facing business expansion led space take up.
So the new interesting figure seems to be flex spaces, and that has shown a big growth. Tell us about flex spaces and why that's growing and whether it'll continue in this manner.
So flex spaces is now a sub segment of commercial real estate. It's a subset of commercial real estate. And the drivers of growth fundamentally are on two accounts. One, I was a conventional space occupier, any company, and now I want certain portion of my space for various reasons to be into a flex or managed office. So that's one growth from conventional going into managed. The second is I'm a new business. There's uncertainty. I don't want to put in capex. I'm happier on shorter leases, and hence I will take up space with the managed service provider. Managed service providers are filling that gap between the developer and the occupier, where they are providing the end-to-end service. So, it's a growing segment. Today, across the country, about 25% of all space take up perhaps is with managed service providers. And this segment in this current environment thrives because it's volatile, it's dynamic. But from a long-term standpoint also, it's actually a solution. If someone can give you everything, then why not take it up?
It's an interesting duality because on one hand you have the India facing businesses which are expanding with concrete presence, including in corporate headquarters and so on. On the other hand, you have clearly maybe smaller companies who are going for the flex solution because it offers them what flex means, which is flexibility.
You're absolutely right. And I would say that for a flexible office space, the driver of demand, yes, it is a huge factor, the flexibility, given the markets being the way they are. But at the same time, I would also emphasize to say that for a occupier, I have to first lease space, fit it out, and then manage it, right? If I can get a bundled solution, then maybe perhaps it's a matter of how I look at my cash flows. But that also is a huge driver that people feel that I can outsource this element and I can get a single solution under a window. Then why not take that up as well? So that's another driver for growth for managed or flex operators.